2 seconds. There is abuse of spouse, battered housewives in the streets, in the homes. I have one solution, and it's the only solution. If you can't agree, agree to disagree. Otherwise, they will read on the tombstone, return if possible. The name of my song is entitled Runaway. One, two, one, two, one. All right. All right. You went and you put gold ring on she hand. You boasting in tongue that you wish she man. She said that you love, she bursting with joy. She give you a baby boy. Little did she know you wanted a man. Your next lady friend couldn't make the grade. No, she said I'm wondering what to do. How to get away. How to get away. How to get away from you. Daughters run away. Fathers run away. Lady cat just run away when you're treating them bad. Daughters run away. Fathers run away. What happened to you? Woman, you could run away too. Get out. Don't you stop. You went and you put gold teeth in she mouth. As all you get vexed, you coughing it out. You making she shame all over the place. Man, you is a damn disgrace. Not even to church, now she cannot go. She begged for little love, you telling she no. And she frightened like hell to make up a plan. How to get away. How to get away. How to get away from you. Hawkers run away. Powders run away. Lady cat does run away when man cheating them bad. Hawkers run away. Cat does run away. Don't say the man squeal. Woman, put two wheels on your heels. Get out. Don't be wrong. And don't turn back. Run. Take your child and run. Back to mama. Back to papa. It ain't easy to be a battered wife and getting abused the rest of your life. When family come, you just have to smile and pretend that he's so nice. When they drink and drunk, well, now we can't be. You just have to wonder if he killed breeze. His licks left and right and all in your head. Woman, run away. Look, woman, run away. Run before he kill you dead. Run. Daughters run away. Powders run away. Lady cat does run away. Man cheating them bad. Hawkers run away. Doctors run away. What's happened to you? Woman, you could run away too. Get out. Now this verse that's coming up is for all the men that's listening. This is a serious matter. Listen. If you know you don't treat your woman nice, start checking up now. You take my advice. Don't let she have cause to fly out the coop. Woman never run from good. No, 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 no. When she give you food, just tell she it's sweet. Hold the lady hand when she cross the street. Just do as I say, handle she with care. And she'd never run away. She would never run away. She would never run away from you. No, no. Because dogs run away. Hawkers run away. Jackasses run away. When man shitting them. it and she is. She will get don't let she have cause to fly out the coop. Woman never run from good. No, 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 no. When she get your food, just tell she it's sweet. Hold the lady hand when she cross the street. Just do as I say, handle she with care. And she'd never run away. She would never run away. She would never run away from you. No, no. Because dogs run away. Hawkers run away. Jackasses run away. When man cheating them. Cactus run away. Them dogs run away. You sit up and scream. She would put to it and she would get out. She go run. Back to mama. She go run. Back to papa. Come to you. Houston daughter. You know I love you.
Hawk just run away. Dog just run away. Cat just run away. When man treating them bad, woman, you can run away too. That calypso, I'm playing it this evening for the literal meaning, which is spousal abuse, but also the political meaning. Our government is an abuser, and cat does run away. Dog does run away. Hog does run away when abuser treating them bad. Guyanese, or you can run away too. Dog does run away. Cat does run away. Hog does run away when man treating them bad. And we get a government that is a serial abuser. And if dog does run away and cat does run away, then human beings can run away fast. The elections coming up is a chance to run away quick from the serial abuser, abusing teachers, abusing vendors, abusing young black men, abusing trade unions, abusing pensioners. It don't care who. This government is a serial abuser. Put two wheels on your foot and prepare to run away. Start now. The election is going to be the end of the process. It's going to be the means towards the end. The election is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. That is, we are going to use the elections as the means to run away, never to come back. As I said last night, and thanks for all of you who made contact with me. So many people contacted me about last night's program, including two of my Indian Guyanese friends who said that what I said last night had to be said. When people like myself have to sit down and hear people telling me I's a racist, and I's this, me, David Hines, is a racist. David Hines, who helped to fight against a black government, a government of my own race, and to go to black people and tell them, turn against a government of your race. I did that. I fight. When Indian Guyanese leaders were hiding in Freedom House, where Jack Dio been? When all you Indian people, according to you all, were taking blows. All you leaders from top to bottom, they hiding. When black men and women like me had to fight for you all. And now you are calling me racist. Because my race is taking 100 times more blows than you race take from the PNC. And because people like me stand up and say, no, you cannot do that, you will not do that, because I'm going to mobilize my people to push back against you and to run away from you. I's a racist. A racist is someone who believes that their race is superior. If I thought my race was superior, I would never fight more than them. I would have said, hey, do he do? He's a black man, but I didn't. Who's the racist? Me or the Indian Guyanese elite? Some of who don't like what this government doing, but they're not fighting it. They want to fight Exxon, but they're not fighting this government. Exxon's safe, you know? They're not fighting this government because this government is Indian like them. But when people like me, black men and women like me, Walter Rodney, Clive Thomas, U.C. Kwayana, you can name the black men and women, Andaye, Bonita Harris, all of us who were in the WPA, we turn against our own, a black government that looked like we, and help to protect Indian people, fight for Indian, when Indian leaders were hiding and running. When we up on the street taking blows, we asked Jagan to send a representative. The only body who put up their hand for Commerce Moses Nagamutu. All the rest of them hiding in Freedom House. So my Indian brothers and sisters, you can drive around Georgetown now and playing big music and carrying on like you always big buys them. Say thanks to people like David Hines. Say thanks to people like me. But no, instead you all are calling me racist because you all are sitting down, Indian brothers and sisters, you all are sitting down and seeing black people taking blows and doing nothing about it. Not raising your voices. Yes, some, like the Indian teachers who came out and stood with their brothers and sisters during the 72 days, they must be commended. They must be commended. The blows that they had to go through in their community, we know about it. But that is the proof of multiracialism. Multiracialism is not to put a black man and an Indian man together, a black woman and an Indian, and say, hey, multiracial. The multiracialism of 2024 is racial equity, racial equality, racial justice. That is the multiracialism. And Indian people must fight for that too. Because when there was a black government that you all call a dictatorship, black people like myself put my liberty on the line. I went to jail for 3 years and 3 months fighting for you Indian people. And today you all are calling me racist. It has to be said, and I want to be the first to say it. Some of you are a little short tail who know nothing about nothing. David Hines is a racist. It has to be said. Because at some point in history, people like David Hines went to black people and convinced them that their government was doing wrong, and many of them answered our calls. Will Ravi Dev do the same? Will Christopher Ram do the same? All of those Indians who are so-called outside of the PPP, are they going to go to Indian people and say, this government is doing bad? This government is robbing school teachers. Will you all stand up and fight for it? Not just telling them they're wrong, but fight for it. Risk your life and risk your liberty for it. No, you all fighting Exxon. The double standards have to be called out. have to be called out. So I thank all of you all who thank me for putting it out there. This don't mean that I against Indian, because I know some of y'all cook for so. And no, I just want our Indian brothers and sisters to understand that they have a historical responsibility. Because we black people did it when our own was accused of doing bad. We have the scars to show. The coalition government knocked me off 2 times. They knocked me off from Chronicle, knocked me off from the Minister of Social Cohesion. You know why? Because I said, I vote for you all. I was a candidate, but you all are wrong, wrong, wrong. And they knocked me off, and I'm still fighting. But yet, Indian people, David Hines, are racist. You're watching black people taking blows and end doing nothing. So I say to black people, are you run away? Run away means get rid of this government. And you start now to put yourself in that mode. Election is not only when the election call, the election start now. And I make my position very clear. I'm glad for Indians to vote for the coalition. I'm glad for Indian vote for the coalition. And I will do my part to convince Indians to vote for the coalition. But what's the price? The price is not the dignity of black people. If I have to choose between the dignity of black people and Indian crossover votes, I'm choosing the dignity of black people. My story clear. I ain't telling me what in my mouth. If I have to make a choice between standing with the teachers, black women in the main, if I had to make a choice between standing with them and 2 crossover vote, skip your crossover vote. I stand in with the teachers, the black women who are being battered by the serial abuser. My story plain, clear. I don't play wrong. At some point, you draw the line. Who would not want votes from all quarters? I want Indian people to vote for us. But there's a certain price I am not paying. You vote for me based on my policies. Not vote for me only when I turn my back on black people. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all of you. All of you, there is unfinished business and we got to take care of it. So let's roll. In the house tonight is someone who stands up to serial abusers. Coretta McDonald. And we got to talk about the teacher story, and Coretta is here tonight to talk about that. So let's go.
Hi, Dr. Hines. Good evening to you. I just want a little bit of that energy that you have, eh? Just a little bit of the energy that you have. And I want to applaud you. As a matter of fact, let me say good evening to your audience, first of all. And Dr. Hines, thanks for having me here. I want to applaud you for the continuous work that you're doing here every night, day in, day out. You see, the thing is, we have recognized that, like you said, there's a serial abuser and that they don't discriminate who they abuse. The abuse is reached out to Afro-Guyanese, men and women, but especially some of our women when they stand up to them, to our indigenous brothers and sisters, especially our sisters who are somewhat vulnerable, to our Indo-Guyanese brothers and sisters, especially if you don't see eye to eye. And so since we've recognized the elephant or elephants in the room, we got to run sometimes from them. But I would want to say we must run to them and back them off. We must do just like what Jagvio said. When they come into our communities, stop them, number one, from hugging up our little boys and girls, because I'm noticing that is the trend now with them. When they go into especially Afro-Guyanese communities, they want to rush to hug up your little boys and girls and pose with them to paint a picture as if they're all for one and one for all, but they are not. And we must tell our people, stop them from hugging up your little boys and girls. Secondly, when they come to our communities, we tie the promises. If you're not coming to bring something good, don't come. So we must chase them when they come with the empty talks. We don't want them with the empty talks. And if we continue to do that, based on the policies that are laid out, this entire country, the operations in this country will change from one government to another one, and they will all fly right.
They will all fly right. Coretta McDonald, General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Coretta, you know, my story is not different from your story. There was a time when the teachers union went on strike against a government that most teachers voted for. Mm-hmm. And they used to say, use PPP and use this and use that. I remember meeting you, I think it was on Robb Street one day. It wasn't around Christmas time. And we were passing and we stopped and we talked for about 5 minutes. And I remember expressing solidarity because people were telling me, David, Coretta said, Coretta up on the PPP and so on. And I knew better. Mm-hmm. I knew that there are people who stand up for justice, and you vote for government, but you're a trade unionist, you're representing teachers, and the teachers stood up against a government that they vote. That's a tradition. That's part of the African Guyanese tradition. They were workers at Linden who struck against the PNC.
Yes.
And so on. We have a long tradition of that. Mm-hmm. And so now, when you are rallying teachers and rallying with teachers to strike against a government that's doing them 1,000,000 times worse than the coalition ever did them, now they're telling you, you are a racist, you're against PPP, you this, you that. But
and it's political.
Political. Well, it wasn't political when you were leading workers to strike against a government that they voted for. And
a government that I voted for.
You voted for. Coretta, I want to stress that because I don't think a lot of the young Indians understand that tradition in the Black community. That we have the capacity, some of us, to say, we vote for you, we love you, but you're not doing right. It's a part of our tradition. Whether you knew it then or you didn't know it then, you were part of a long tradition in the Black community, right? Where we have that capacity to love, but also to say, I love you, but you are wrong. And I think some of our Indian comrades in position, I'm not talking about the masses, I'm talking about some of these Indians who said they're not PPP. They are not standing up to the PPP. They may tell you in private, man, they're doing wrong, but they wouldn't come out in the open. You, Coretta McDonald, can sleep well at night knowing that you're an equal opportunity trade unionist. And I want to make that clear because it's not easy to do that. I'm sure up to today, there's some Black people who still tell you, Coretta, you see, you strike against the coalition. You shouldn't do that, right? The point is that you were right then, and you are 50 times more right now. Because at least the government, when you all strike, come to the table and give you all most of what you asked for. They didn't threaten to knock off people. They didn't threaten to take away pay. They didn't threaten to stop checking. You all didn't have to go to the court for them and all that story. And this government is doing that. And I want to say, I stand with people like yourself because I know the tradition and I know how difficult it is to walk that road. But sister,
Thank you so much.
you're a God-fearing woman. At the end of the day, God will smile on you because he would say, you have stood up for justice. And as we know, God is a God of justice.
That's true.
God is a God of justice.
And,
Correct?
you know, David, whether you read the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, or the Quran, it tells you the same thing. The same message is there, that whoever we call God, he's a God of fairness and justice. So all of them who just shout out there and put on all kind of fancy clothes when it's Diwali and when it's Yom Nabi and so on, and Christmas time, they put on all kind of fancy clothes, they're going to get the whipping of the Almighty for knowing his will and doing differently. But, you know, David, when we look at what is happening in this society, it's not only some of the men and women out there who are silent against these abuses that we're having, you know. The church that played a major role. I remember the church played a major role in my life, in the community, in the upbringing of our children. The church is now silent on many, many issues. Many, many issues. Some of our pastors and our pundits and our imams and so on, they get caught up in the luxury life. And so they don't care whether they're even their own congregations. They don't care whether they suffer. They're absolutely silent on what is happening in this country. And so while we are rallying our workers to stand up against this abusive government, we've got to start rallying our religious people, the congregations, to start standing up against some of their pastors and their priests and the imams and their pandits and their reverends and so on. We've got to ask them to stand up against them, because you cannot be my shepherd and you're walking in one direction, but you are allowing me to go into another direction so that I can drown in the Red Sea. It cannot continue to happen. It cannot be business as usual. And so while we understand the abuses are there, we've got to be able to devise the means and the mechanisms and build that courage to be able to push that abuser back.
To be able to push that abuser back. Coretta, there is an elephant in the room, as we know, and I talk about aspects of the African Guyanese tradition, and I talk about the aspect of the political culture where we can vote for a government, we can love that government, but we also have the capacity and the courage to say to that government, you're wrong. It's a part of our political culture that is not always articulated. There's another part of our culture, nevertheless, and that is we have some African Guyanese who are sellouts. That is also part of the African Guyanese culture.
With capital letters.
With capital letters. And, you know, all of us know that after a heroic effort, not since 1999, when the public servants went on that strike and brought this serial abuser government to arbitration, and they were able to win that arbitration. Not since then. And there have been actions, nurses' action and so on since then. But not since then have we seen that level of intensity from workers along with their union. Because we have had instances in the past where the workers went out front and the union had to be pulled along screaming. This time with the teachers instructed the union, and the union complied.
Mm-hmm.
And you were the face, and still is the face of that standing form standing firm. But lo and behold, after 70 odd days, as
75
people
days.
tell me, how many?
75 days.
75 days, 10 long weeks, and
Mhm.
5 days. After all of that time, part of the leadership of the union sold the workers down the drain. You don't have to use my term. I am not compelling you to use my term. But you have been on record in public to say all was not well coming down to the end. And so, Coretta, I want you to tell us tonight. Tell us tonight. When did you get a sense that things were moving sideways, to quote the young people? You go
Well,
back in time and tell us. Yes.
Dr. Hines, let me say to you, we suspected along the way because in 2018, when we took industrial action, there was mass mobilization. And so officers were sent to regions, officers were assigned to regions, and these are the officers who were elected to serve at the level of the Gather Teachers Union. And these officers, president, first vice president, second vice president, general secretary, deputy general secretary, treasurer, immediate past president, 10 officers of the Gather Teachers Union. These officers were assigned to regions to mobilize our teachers, to let them know or to remind them of what has happened, what continues to happen, and what they think we should do. And coming from our teachers all across the 10 regions, we got the same sound. The government eyes pass us, and we have to put a stopping to it. What is the stop that we're putting to it? We must down tools. And so these officers were there working with with the teachers in those various regions, week out, week in, until we found that the support was at the level of its maximum. And we decided to issue to the coalition government a statement. The Minister of Education, we indicated to her and the Minister of Labor that because you would have failed to meet us at the table, we are now instructing our members to down tools. We have instructed our members to down tools. And these actions will begin on whatever date it was. And this is a matter of information for you. And we had mass protests, if you remember, in 2018, which lasted for 9 days. Because after 9 days, or between those 9 days, we had 5 days, the 5 days before the reopening of school. And you know, that week, there is the week you call preparation week. So that week was the week teachers were returning to schools to ensure their classrooms were fixed. They were swept, the walls were wiped, and teachers put up their teaching aids and so on. And then we had 4 days into the new school year, 9 days. So in between those 9 days, the coalition government caught themselves and they recognized exactly what was happening. So on the Thursday, we had the meeting with them. We had 2 meetings with them or 3 meetings with them. But on the Thursday, we were able to agree that they are ready to offer us what we were willing to what we were asking for. We are going to go through the entire document, and then we are going to come up with an agreement. And so on that Thursday, while our members were standing in front of the Ministry of Labor, we were inside, and then we came outside and we informed them that the strike is over because we have agreed to A, B, C, that the government, as a matter of fact, they have agreed to A, B, C. Our teachers were pleased with that. This time around, there was kind of lazing around. And like you rightfully said, our teachers had to say, if y'all ain't going, we will go. So this time around, we were not assigned to, there was no meeting to say, well, we are going to be assigned to regions, or we are going to exchange regions based on what was the assignment the last time. We'll exchange regions and so on. No, there wasn't that. But we still kept pushing. We continue, some of us, the dedicated ones, the ones who understand what teachers feel, we kept pushing. And eventually, we had the opening for the industrial action, which we launched out in February of this year. We continue to go out there, and because of our mobilization, one, two, because teachers knew to themselves that life on the other side was tough, and what they were receiving was nothing compared to what our colleagues in the Caribbean are receiving. And what the kind of respect that was being meted out to us, we had to put a stop to it. And if you recognize that our teachers, and I must shout out to them, in region number 2, our teachers there came out in their numbers. And it could not have been political if our teachers from region 2 could have supported that strike. It couldn't be political. Our teachers in region 5, in region 6 came out in their numbers. So while these clowns want to talk about the strike being political, it means therefore that the entire region 2 is anti-PPP in terms of the teaching population. It has got to be. And we know that is not true. And so our teachers were out there, and we were having little bits of talks. The ministry took a standoff attitude. They weren't prepared to talk. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. We went to court. You know what transpired with the court matter. The judge there found the evidence given by the CEO as not being credible. When our attorneys posed questions to the CEO, he couldn't answer. He couldn't remember. He couldn't. Luckily for us, technology is available. And so the technology was presented. The letters were presented to him that we wrote, and some of his responses that he couldn't remember. And so when he saw those on the screen there, he had to backtrack. And that's when the judge said to him that, his evidence wasn't credible. All of that passed, where the judge said that the Jews, look, this government is so wicked. In 2018, the government then did not stop the deduction of the Jews. This government did, and they continue to do. The government then did not issue the threats to teachers telling them that their pays are going to be cut. Every cent of it. They will take out, they will look at the days and take out every cent. The government then in 2018 did not say that to us. This government has threatened that. And you know what they went further to do? They have appealed the decision of the judge. So it is saying to us that this government is anti-working class. They don't like workers who stand up to them. They like workers who can say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, miss, how far, how fast. That's what they like. And they have issued those threats so that they can intimidate our teachers. But our teachers weren't having it. Our teachers on the Essequibo Coast, one in particular, Martin Samaru, who stood out there and he was giving live commentary. They tried to block his Facebook page. They reported him. All sorts of things they tried to do to him. And I must say that they are victimizing him as we speak. He's also a photographer, because we understand that teachers' salaries can't make it, more so for a male who has a family. So he's a photographer. They have withdrawn several of the contracts that he used to have with government agencies in Region 2. You understand the wickedness of this serial abuser that we have to deal with, that calls themselves the PPPC government, One Guyana? You understand the abuser? They have withdrawn those contracts from him. They went to his school, let me say, they went to his school after we resumed duties, looking for every little thing that you could find to nail him to the cross. But you know what? He's a professional. And so they couldn't find anything wrong at his school. And so teachers like these, teachers like Martin, we must recognize, we must shout them out every time, because they are dedicated and committed, and they have that passion for teaching. But you know what? With all the passion that they have not been rewarded by some of their leaders who took time out to sell them and throw them into the river to the sharks. But I must say to you that while we were continuing to go out there every day, we saw the kind of hesitancy going on. But like everything else, sometimes you're blinded. You see these things coming, but you take them for granted. And sometimes you doubt yourself. No, man, this isn't going to happen. No, man. And I remember teachers were saying to us out there, and they were telling the president of the Guyana Teachers Union, don't think you're going to sell me out, because we ain't going to take it so. Don't think y'all going to sell me out. Don't think. The teachers were sensing what was going to come down, and they were saying it. They were saying it. I remember there was one particular teacher from the East Bank. Every day she came with buckets of fruits. And I'm not sure what relationship she had with some of the vendors, but every morning she went to Stabrook Market, and then she made her way up to Brig Dam. And then she would come and she would say to us, the vendor send this, the vendor send that, the vendor send that. I only had to pay for this, but y'all don't worry, you don't got to give me any money. You don't got to give me back any money. And she would say, every day she came, she said, Madam GS, I'm giving you this. Don't feel you're going to sell me out, Don't feel you're going to sell me out. And we stood there and we took quite a lot of that for granted. Just give me a minute. I think something is happening here with my computer. My battery is saying something. Just 1 minute. Let me just hook up this.
And Sister Coretta McDonald, they're giving us a blow by blow. Often you see things, you see the optics, and you don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. And it's good sometimes when you get people like Coretta to come and to give us a sense of what's going on behind the scenes, right? Teachers were sensing it, and there were machinations going on behind the scenes. And now, the morning after, we are talking about that, and we talk about these things so that we can correct them the next time around, and that we can pay attention to those in our midst. As I said just now, there are positive aspects of our political culture, but there are also negative aspects of our political culture. I think Coretta is ready for us here. Yes, Coretta. Go right ahead.
I don't know why I thought the computer was plugged in. It wasn't plugged in.
I might have distracted you when I was trying to fix the light.
Maybe. Yes. So, like I said, the teachers were sensing a couple of things, and they were voicing this, but we took it for granted. We went, as a matter of fact, in the first instance, teachers said we should not have gone to the court and agree to that discussion, that arbitration, that discussion when we had the mediator.
Yes.
And we went off of the strike, and then we had to return to the streets again. Teachers said that should not have happened, but it happened. We went through this passage, and then we recognized a couple of our officers, the teachers highlighted and pinpointed them. And they were always asking, why is it that you and a few others are always in the forefront, but we don't see a couple of others in the forefront? When they come here, they're either sitting in the back seat of their car, or they're standing behind and bracing the fence of the ministry's fence, or something else. Why you don't see them up front?
These are some of the members of the executive of the teachers union.
Yes, some of them. And the teachers were pointing out these things. But again, we took those things for granted. And we took it that, some people can't deal with the sun. Some people don't like to be in the forefront, but they're here. They're giving their support. But that was the beginning of things to come. To bring that story, let me bring the curtains down. We started engaging the ministry when we left labor, We said, okay, we are going to call the industrial action off and the teachers will resume duties. We are going to start all over again, fresh negotiations, because the serial abusers were adamant that they weren't looking at 2019, 2023. Our teachers put lots and lots of lashes on us for that. They said we should have never pulled that document. We pulled the document because we wanted things to return to normalcy. Yeah. We thought then that as good partners, our interest was having our children return to schools. And so we pulled that document and we presented a new document, 2024-2026. And that document spells out everything that we wanted. Our percentage increase went up, and quite a lot of our askings, because of course we took into consideration 2019 to 2023. It was a lot that we lost then. So we tried to pull some of that into the 2024-2026 document. We sat at the ministry and almost everything that we bargained, we proposed there. The ministry came, if it was on a scale from 1 to 5, they came with 0.1. Every proposal that we had there. And so many times I had to tell them, sometimes not very nicely, this set of you over there, y'all are heartless. Heartless because your children go to private schools and the ordinary people children going to public schools. Y'all heartless. That's why you behave in this way. Our teachers are suffering and you telling us that you can't do this, you can't do that. The first thing we learned is that the budget doesn't have fiscal space to accommodate the kind of asking in terms of percentage, the percentage that we were asking for. But lo and behold, we have seen several supplementary budgets going to Parliament and being approved. But the budget did not have space and there could not have been a supplementary budget to cater for teachers' needs. You see the kind of wickedness? And I'm hoping that the viewers are listening and that they're taking note that if the educators can suffer this kind of fate, the nurses can suffer the same fate. Clerks can suffer the same fate. Office assistants can suffer the same fate. Supervisors can suffer the same fate. And some PSs can suffer that same fate. So when we look at how they operate, they don't care, because they've already put us in a caste system. Mm-hmm. You hear the Attorney General, he boasts that he's a chat 3. So we probably not even chatters yet, more so to be 1, 2, or 3. And this is how these abusers feel. These serial abusers feel that they can trample on the rights of every Tom, Dick, Pat, Jenny, Paula, and get away with it. Because we sometimes allow them to do it. That's how they feel. And then they come 2 mornings after they've abused you and they come to smile and behave as if they're saviors and they come to bring a little crumbs and throw it and give you. But sometimes I agree with them when they bring the crumbs to throw at us, because some of us make ourselves worse than rats and birds and pigeons. Well, birds would be pigeons, mongoose and so on. We make ourselves worse than them because we accept the pittance that they give out to us. But let me get back to what I was saying. We started engaging in the Ministry of Education and bargaining and arguments, and some very heated arguments sometimes were put on the table. When we sought to have been getting somewhere, the ministry decided then that they were going to infiltrate a few of the officers. They were going to use their hands of vanity to infiltrate some of our officers, or the officer corps. And they got through with some. And so on that fateful day, on the 21st, but I should say 2 weeks before that, they made an offer of 8%. It was rejected. They made an offer of 9%. That was rejected. And mind you, every time they come with an offer, they tell you, this is our final offer. This is our final offer. But those offers were rejected. They came, and then we had the standoff point where we said we're not going to accept that. When you're ready to come and talk to us better, talk to us. Following that rejection of the 9%, we left that meeting. GTU, I must remind us, is an organization. Since 1884, it has been established. And we don't go by telephone calls and text messages or WhatsApp messages on serious issues. Serious issues require emails, soft copy that you can print, or hard copies being sent to us. But on that Thursday afternoon, after we left the meeting, the president, Dr. Light, reported that he got a telephone call from the PS Education. And sometimes that triggers me a whole lot, because I often ask, why do we allow ourselves to be relegated to telephone calls on serious matters? Why these announcements are not made when we sit around the table? Why, after we would have left the meeting, somebody is receiving a telephone call to say X or to say Y? But let me tell you why those things happen. They wouldn't call Coretta McDonald to tell her, oh, this, that, because they know what I will tell them. Leave it for when we return to the table. We're coming to the table again. Tell me then. Tell us then. Don't go. So they wouldn't call me. They would call those who are gullible. And so a telephone call was made. That's the report we got. And the telephone call went like this. The president called her, and the president said this is his final offer. And that's Irfan Ali called her, and he said his final offer is 10%. Rather than Mark Light saying to the PS then, please put that in writing, and I will discuss with my, not your officers this time, but you're going to discuss with your negotiations team. This negotiations team is made up of a group of persons, officers, and other teachers who were nominated and voted upon at our last conference. Rather than saying that to her, he probably might have said, thank you very much, we'll accept that. Because we saw the agreement that was signed, 10%. So I'm just thinking in my mind what he might have said to us. That was never reported to the negotiations team. It was never reported to the officer corps of the GTU. But a meeting was called, and this was Thursday afternoon. You had Friday, you had Saturday. Nothing was reported. But you waited until another couple of days, and then you summoned a general council meeting on a day when many, as a matter of fact, the general council meeting was summoned at 6:30 in the morning for 10 o'clock. We all know that meetings, for attending meetings, you are given 7 days notice. Emergency meetings, 3 days notice. But that meeting was summoned at 6:30 in the morning for 10 o'clock. When that announcement was made by Mark Light, many of our general council reps indicated they will not be available because they had other issues, other matters that they planned to attend to. I could not attend that meeting because I had parliament on that day. 6 of the officers of the GTU were not present in that meeting. But the president went through with a meeting where a couple general council reps turned up because the agenda said update on salaries negotiations. So those reps turned up there because they wanted to have an update so they can share with their members. They never had any indication that they were going to be asked to vote on that day. So they turned up there. And of course, when they turned up there, they were misguided. They were told about the non-salaries benefits, that many of the non-salaries benefits are in our favor. They were told that the officer corps were tired and we were looking at our safety. Mind you, we were out there for 75 days and our safety didn't matter. But when we are sitting around the negotiations table now, your safety matters. And so our officers were concerned about their safety. Now, this man was reporting on officers' behalf when there was no meeting with the officers, when no officer indicated to him that they were tired. Maybe a few indicated that they were tired, but there was no meeting for persons to say, I am tired, I think we should accept, I think we should do that. No meeting. And so at that General Council meeting, because several of the officers, like I said, were absent from that meeting, the General Council reps who were present took the man's word for granted. They believed everything he said to them because it's the president who's talking and you don't expect the president to lie to you. He further said to them, if we did not, the offer is 10%, and if we didn't accept the 10%, then we can lose. Teachers who were in that meeting questioned. 10% is not enough. They can't return to their branches to tell them we accept 10%. Let's go to arbitration if that's what they're doing. Let's go to arbitration. You know what the response was? If you go to arbitration, you're going to lose.
Wow.
And you're going to get less. You ever hear anything like that? You go into arbitration and you'll get less. You either end up with the same thing or more. You never get less. And this is what happens to people who, like I said, are gullible and they allow material gains to take away their consciences. And so a vote, the teachers were asked to vote. Now I'm in Parliament and my phone is ringing off and I'm wondering why these reps are calling me. I'm in Parliament. Why they're calling me? Because all I did was to log on to the meeting, but I wasn't paying attention to the meeting because when I saw the caption there, and I must say that any General Council meeting that is called, if you have your General Secretary absent, your Deputy General Secretary absent, your immediate past President absent, your Regional Vice President Demerara absent, Regional Vice President Essequibo absent, your first Vice President is absent, 6 of your officers are absent, 4 officers were part of that meeting. How could that be a constituted meeting? Mind you, the General Secretary marks the register and gives you the okay to say that the meeting is quorate. You got none of that, but you went through with this meeting. And so General Council reps were asked to vote on this, that we agree. And all the emotions came out from the president then. And the reps felt so sympathetic that here you have your 10 officers and you don't want anything bad to happen to them because we know the government we're playing with. They don't want anything bad to happen to them because you remember he said our security is at risk and officers are tired and the ministry doesn't mean to bend and we've been pushing for a long time. It's better for us to accept. So the teachers fell for that and they voted. So when I got the call, I had to step out of Parliament to ask, what is happening? The teacher said, Miss, you need to get in the meeting. Is the president asking us to vote on this, even though we are arguing and we're saying, no, we shouldn't do this. Why? Let's look at this other way. Let's go to arbitration. Let's hold off for a little more. He's saying that we should vote. So she said, you need to vote no. So I just clicked on no. When I got into the meeting, after I had my phone there and I got into the meeting proper, persons were voting. And so they had finished voting those yes and those for no. And I put up the hand signal to show no. So when I got a little deeper into it to find out what is this all about, I then sent an entire script in that grouping to say this should not be so. We are not yet through with our negotiations. There are several issues that we have not even looked at, much more to agree on. We have not agreed on the housing revolving project. We've not agreed on the hardline and station allowance for our teachers who live in the hinterland. We've not agreed on the RAI. We've not agreed on what our health risk allowance should be, and so many others that we did not agree on. and some others that we have not even looked at. So how could we sign an agreement? And so I took them through the paces. But like everything else, the president then used that opportunity to say General Council voted. Now there was big confusion there, and we had a hold off for a whole week, because I'm not sure if you saw me putting out a statement there saying there
Yes,
will be no
yes,
signing of any agreement and so on, because
yes.
teachers were alarmed. Teachers started making noise. After that, the president, he is so very, very conniving that he just stood back and allowed all the noise to finish. And then we had a meeting where we said, look, we must go out there and meet our teachers and let them say to us exactly what they want. I said it was unfair to ask the General Council reps to vote when they had no mandate from their teachers in their branches. If we wanted them to vote on this issue, then we should have informed them before. And how are we acting on a phone call? Why are we acting on a phone call? At that point, the president decided that he is going to recuse himself from the entire process, and he's going to recuse himself from the entire process. I think somebody was trying to call me there. And he's going to allow the first vice president to act as president and to carry on. That happened for 1 week, where we met with teachers, and teachers were saying, what nonsense is this? What nonsense? How is it that y'all get General Council to vote? To vote on what? We didn't tell them to vote on our behalf. They didn't talk with us. And so we had that happening. Those were the reports that were filtered in from meetings I attended, meetings the Deputy General Secretary, the Regional Vice President, the First Vice President, and all of the IPP and so on, because persons were assigned to areas where they have to have meetings with the teachers. On that note, we agreed that this whole thing is going to be put on hold. But we did not know that there were lots of undercurrents happening behind our backs. So there were meetings that were happening that we weren't privy to. We returned to the Ministry of Education with the first vice president there acting as president. The 10% offer was made. It was rejected. The first vice president said, we will not accept that. And when you are ready to talk to us, we will be available again. And we left that meeting. We spoke to the media when we got outside. A couple days, a week after that, the ministry said they were ready to talk to us. And so we turned up for that meeting. I want our viewers to note, the GTU's team turned up for that meeting. At no point did the president or the second vice president who signed that document, at no point did they say to us, look, we are going to be signing a document today. At no point. So we all went into that meeting. We sat there and we looked at the minutes of the previous meeting. I remembered saying to them while we were at the previous meeting, look, the issues that we've already agreed upon, let's start formulating the language for those issues, those conditions. So we put them aside. In our minutes, we must have 3 columns. Issues that were agreed on, issues to be agreed on, issues to be looked at. So when we go to the minutes, we don't have to dwell on those that have been agreed on already. And the language, we have the correct language there. So we were at this meeting and we are going through the document and we are formulating the language and we're changing this, we're dotting the I's and we are crossing the T's. When we would have completed that, we are now saying, okay, we've completed this aspect. We are going to have our discussions now and we are going to go look again at those that we had difficulties with, that we did not agree on. Only to hear the PS Education saying, Dr. Light, I am ready to print. I'm going to print now. So at that point, we said, well, I said then, ensure you print copies for everyone, because I'm here thinking, like most of my other colleagues, that it's the minutes that is going to be printed. And I remember there were days when some persons did not get a copy of the minutes. So I said, ensure you print for everyone. She said, no, 4 copies are going to be printed and then you are going to reproduce it. I said, but thinking that my colleagues are here. And she said, Dr. Light, I'm ready to print so that we can sign the agreement. Well, I don't have to tell you then what happened in that room.
Tell us.
There was craziness happening. It is, to me, it's still like a dream, like it has not happened. My colleague from Bartico, who was tasked with doing up all the calculations, and he was tasked with representing the teachers in the hinterland. And so he did all of those calculations to show what is the increase that would be required for our colleagues in the hinterland, because cost of living there and cost of living on the coast is far different. When I tell you about $16,000 for 1 bottle of gas in Waramadong as against what we pay in Georgetown, 5,000 or 4,500 or 4,800. 1 sack of carby rice, $8,000 at that end as compared to what we pay here, $2,300 or $1,900 for. And note well, the salaries are the same, they're not different. So he was tasked with doing that aspect, and he was pushing that and never got a chance to champion for his people who nominated him. So you could understand how furious he was. We had Vanessa Kissoon there and she was hitting the roof. As a matter of fact, there was even an attempt to scramble the document and tear it up, and I had to, you had to break up, because, getting angry is one aspect, but then you're a professional, that's one. And 2, the spin that would take.
That's right. So
I had to say, hold on. GTU, stop. P.S., could you and your team excuse us for a couple of minutes? We're going to call you again. And when she and her team walked out, man, it started. I pleaded with the president not to have us sign that agreement on that day. I said, let's return to GTU. Ask the ministry for an hour or 2 or maybe a day. Let's return to GTU, talk this over, and then we'll return. Mr. Bino spoke until it got to a point where the president said, Mr. Bino, you talk enough. I don't want to hear anything else from you. That's how disrespectful that guy is.
And Mr. Bino is the past president.
Past president, who is supposed to be his advisor.
That's right.
The deputy general secretary spoke. Vanessa Kissoon was going out of her mind. And the president said then, he is not going anywhere. He is the president of the GTU. He is the leader of this team, and he is prepared to sign the agreement today. I said, but you can't do that. We did not agree on anything like that. He said, General Council voted on it. I said, but General Council didn't tell you come and sign today. General Council did not say sign today. And remember when I posted that note in the group, many of the General Council reps who voted then were saying, I am retracting my vote. I did not know this. I am retracting my vote. Why did the president mislead us? Mr. President, why did you mislead us? Now, if the president was doing something right, or if he had done something right, you think we would have had the kind of outcry that we're having from not only teachers, but from the ordinary man in the street? You think they would have had that outcry? But in the eyes of the president and the second vice president, they did right. But let me put the icing on the cake. In the history of the GTU, we have never had an official document without the name of the general secretary printed on it. This time around, we had that. I must let it be known that the GTU has 3 signing officers. The president, the general secretary, and the first vice president are the 3 signing officers. All 3 of them were present on that occasion. But you know what? This is how the devil sometimes uses people, and then he confuses you when he uses you. So rather than printing the name of the general secretary on that document, the name of the second vice president, Julian Cambridge, was printed on that document. So Julian Cambridge and the president signed that document. The first vice president was right there. The deputy general secretary was right there, and the general secretary was right there. Now let us put it in this context. You had the document there. The general secretary's name was printed, and the general secretary refused to sign the document. Then we could have said, all right, she refused, so we're asking the deputy general secretary to sign on her behalf because he's a part of the secretariat. The secretariat and the general secretary who heads the secretariat is the custodian of the union's seal. Now, if the deputy general secretary had refused to sign, then we could have asked the first vice president. But the second vice president's name was printed on that document and he signed. So I don't have to tell you more because you went to IFLOT University, so I don't have to tell you more. It was a whole cook-up, conniving story to deceive the teachers of this country and to deceive parents. Now, why would we want to go out there and stand in the sun for 75 days when we know that we only wanted 10%? Why did we deprive our children almost 3 months? No, 3+ months.
Yes.
Why did we deprive them almost a term or a term and more if we knew that we wanted 10%? Why did we have to put many of our teachers who are being victimized now through what we put them if we knew that we wanted 10%? And so when you look at this whole thing, a document, a proposal that is asking for 39.5%. Now we know that we wouldn't get 39.5%. We know that. But when you're negotiating, you start from a high point and then you wind your way down to exactly where you would want to be. It would have been good if we got 39%, but the 39% was not for all teachers across Guyana. The 39.5% was for our teachers who fell in between TS scales 1 to 3. Because that's where the majority of our teachers are, and those are the ones whose salaries are the lowest. So we placed that percentage there for them. For 2024, teachers who fall between TS scale 4 to 19, we ask that they be given 30%. And for the rest of the years, that they be given the 25% each for the rest, the 2025, 2026. But we started off on that high note there. Now, everybody, the ministry, they were so very abusive that they bypassed the two categories that we were bargaining for, and they decided that it was going to be 10% across the board. You see, that's what they do all the time. They don't care about the man who's sitting below. All they're concerned about is the man who's sitting at the top here. So when you give 10% across the board, the man at the top will go higher up, and the man at the bottom, he will go further down. They don't care about the man at the bottom. But we thought about our teachers, hence the reason for the two numbers that we placed there. Now, we did not even get half of what we argued for. You notice?
No, I noticed, and I just want to remind you, Coretta, because this story is so big that at some point after the General Council meeting, the teachers instructed you all not to accept anything below 30% or 29%. Yeah, you remember that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, before that. But I forgot to say, we were engaging our teachers in general meetings, general membership meetings on Zoom. And then all of a sudden, there was no more engagement with the teachers, and we should have picked that up. But like I said, we took these things for granted. And so we stopped engaging membership. And then, and the president, he was just saying, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. So membership was no longer important then. And that's what I said to them in the note. When we wanted our teachers to go out on industrial action, we went out there and we met them. We engaged them. When we want their votes, we go out there and meet them. Why don't we go out? Why aren't we going out there to meet them now? Why we don't want to engage our teachers now? But I want our teachers to understand. Look in the media and see what you are seeing. You're going to see the clear picture of those who sunk you way below in the deep Red Sea. Look at them. You're going to see them in the media. Look around and you're going to see who are the ones that are receiving tickets for the executive suite or presidential booth at cricket and so on. You look around, you will see them. Those are the people who don't have you at heart. And they will come to you come mid-October, November. They will come to you to ask you to nominate them to run for positions again. You have to be wise. The GTU is now half broken, because even when you went to sign off on 10%, you did not even have the common decency to say, well, look, I'm prepared to take 10, but reinstate the Jews. Reinstate the Jews. I am prepared to take 10, ask your principals to drop the appeal. And so with this appeal that is in front of us, I pray God doesn't allow these abusers to win. Because if they win, you know what is going to happen there to teachers? Teachers will suffer all over again and worse. And you know what is the message they're sending there? The message they're sending there is, don't ever stand up against us, because we will cripple your union and we will cripple you. So don't ever stand up against us. And thirdly, they are playing with the survival of teachers, because we know what they will do if they were to win that appeal. They will deduct in chunks, huge chunks, those teachers' monies for 75 days. I wonder if Mark Light or Julian Cambridge is ready to repay those. And this is what we have to start. I must start mobilizing our teachers to tell Mark Light and Julian Cambridge that you better have monies. You better have monies to repay us. Because you went there and signed the agreement, you better have monies to pay us if we lose that appeal. And this is how heartless these cannibals that we have there who signed that agreement, that's how heartless they are. They don't care about teachers. And they talk about, oh, you're bringing the union into disrepute. I got to bring the union into disrepute because the people out there stood with us when we were in the streets. The regular ordinary Guyanese came there and they brought water, they brought ice, they brought some juice, they brought some chana, they brought some sandwich. A guy came there some days with a van with hot soup for the teachers. So I have to bring the union into disrepute because these were the people who were backing us. All the folks in the diaspora who were sending monies via MoneyGram and all over. They sent money to bring our teachers from the Pomeroon River on 2 occasions out to the Essequibo coast. They hired boats and brought them out and prepared meals for them. So we have to speak out when these kinds of nonsense happen. But you know what? The two who signed the agreement, they're just like the PPP. They like to trample on people's rights. And then they like to play wrong and strong now to tell you that you mustn't make noise about it. Those two who signed the agreement. But a better day is coming. A better day is coming. And I want to use this opportunity to thank those persons in the diaspora who stood with us. To thank our ordinary local Guyanese who stood with us. All of those businessmen who did not want their names and so on to be mentioned. I want to thank you because you were there and you recognize that teachers have value. You know, this year, the theme for World Teachers Day this year is valuing teachers' voices. That's the theme for this year, World Teachers Day. Valuing teachers' voices towards a new social contract. That's the theme for this year's World Teachers Day celebration. And let me tell you, with all that the Ministry of Education did to teachers, on World Teachers Day, not even a pencil they didn't offer to teachers. Not even a pencil. I see them throwing up teachers' pictures on Facebook, as if teachers could eat their pictures being thrown up on Facebook. Not even a pencil they couldn't offer them. But I'm waiting to hear what Irfan Ali will go to Parliament tomorrow to say. He better come right. He better come right when he's coming to Parliament tomorrow. He must come to Parliament to address all the corruption that we got in this country, all the discrimination, all them contracts that go into family, friends, and favorites and cronies. He better come right. And he must come to tell us tomorrow that he is going to appoint the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. He must come to tell us that. Or don't come at all, because the people in this country are tired of you and your nonsense, Irfan Ali and Jagdio and all of you. So don't come to Parliament to tell us foolishness about, March 2020 elections and rigging of elections and democracy and transparency and who had it and who in, because you should be the last to talk about that. Just as recent as when we had the local government elections, I don't know if the viewers remember, Dr. Hines, if you remember, Barra Jagdio had to apologize to the families of a deceased woman because they had her name on the list. So don't come to tell people about rigging elections, because you are the riggers. You are the sanctimonious gangsters. And then you got the two champion ones from GTU who would have joined you.
Coretta, a lot of people are asking here on the chat. Clearly, the document signed, according to the rules of the GTU, the document signed was against the rules. And people are asking, why didn't you all go to court?
Well, let me say to you, there are a number of steps that that are being considered.
Okay.
Of course, you have to be very, very careful with some of what you do, because I can tell you, we have many of our teachers who are nearing retirement and would love to have their duty-free concession. If we go to court, that will cause them to be retired and lose those benefits. So sometimes you have to weigh even what is wrong, and you have to allow it to sometimes slide, because you don't want to prevent your members from not having to access those benefits. That coupled with some of the benefits we are going to receive for additional qualifications, which is not much, but we have increased the number of qualifications from what we used to have. So all degreed programs are now recognized by the ministry, and teachers are going to get paid for it. But the cock in that is, if you have a first degree, if you do the management program, you have a first degree, you have a master's, and you have a doctorate, you're not going to be paid for all four. You get paid for the highest. So that's another smartness in it that we were supposed to have ironed out, but Mark Light jumped off there on Julian Cambridge and signed a document. Now, teachers have spent monies to qualify themselves. And if I have 4 sets of qualification, why you don't want to pay me for the 4 set? You must pay me for the 4 set because it's monies I spent. And when I did not spend money, I had to serve time. And you know, these are the issues that we were supposed to flesh out in this document. But this happens when people, one, when they don't know what they're about, and two, like I said, when they are gullible. Outside of the court, taking that matter to court, because we've engaged several lawyers. But like I said, you have to look on what is here, what is there, how it will weigh, because, you know, we as a people and persons in general are funny. They would be upset about the signing of the 10% agreement, but they'll get more upset with you and turn against you if you prevent them now from having a duty-free or something of that sort. So we have to weigh those. Outside of that, there are several other procedures that we can use within the confines of the Guyana Teachers Union Constitution to hammer out some of these. But I can tell you what, since then, the GTU, we have not met since then.
Wow. I was about to ask.
No executive council meeting, no general council meeting, even though persons are clamoring that we should have this meeting, iron out this whole issue, whether we got to cuss out on that day, and let's get past this. Teachers are saying we want to hear from Mark Light because he signed the document. but he's afraid to go out there and embrace the teachers and speak with them. I noticed that there's going to be some sort of a meeting, but I can say to you, in one's mind, in my mind, I don't know how comfortable I can go to sit in a meeting with people who betrayed me.
Yeah.
I don't know. What am I going to tell you? Anything coming out of your mouth, I am going to be very skeptical about it, because let me say it, the 21st is a special date for Mark. In 2021, on the 21st of August, Mark did the same thing to teachers when we took industrial action then against the PPP government. It was not this on this for so many days, but on the 21st, he sold us out, call off the strike. And then another 21st in 2024. So that day seemed to be a special day for that young man. But teachers have a voice, and teachers are now being asked to use their voices, to use their pencils, to go to the branch meetings and say clearly, we don't want them because they have failed us. They have failed us. You know, we have another issue to talk about, but I'm just going to briefly mention it here. Mm-hmm. We noticed that the Teaching Service Commission is dismissing our teachers left, right, and center. Many of our teachers. And you know why this is happening? Because the union sold itself for grass. Mm-hmm. So it's happening because they recognize now that the union is not as strong as it used to be.
Yeah.
Sports. Yeah. We know that this is the term for athletic sports when everybody mind gearing up towards inter-house, inter-schools, inter-branch, champion of champions, and then the National Athletics Championship. But it's not going to happen this year again because the ministry have decided that they're going to push nationals now to March of next year.
But isn't that going to be close to exams and so on and so on?
This was changed a couple of years before. It did not work. They had to revert to the November period. They're changing it again. And you know why they're changing it again? Because they recognize that the union is weak. They got some weaklings who can suck up to them.
Yeah.
So that's why they're doing these things. And you know who's suffering in the long run? Our teachers. But let me reassure our teachers that as long as your concerns come to me, I will continue to use every breath and every bit of strength I have in me to ensure that you are treated justly. West Rumvelt Primary, when it's not water woes, it's toilet woes, it's flooding of the toilets, it's garbage, it's electricity sparks, fire the school. West Rumvelt Primary. Westminster Secondary School that was just built not too long ago. Water woes, toilets in Flushing for the last 3 weeks. No running water this school. And Priya jumping around this place to talk all kind of foolishness. President's College. The woes is happening there. And President's College ought to be the school of excellence. But because it was established by LFS Burnham, they're throwing President's College in a corner and allowing all kinds of things to happen there. We got the students at Madia, where they claim that a student lit the fire there. 20 lives. Priya got to walk around with that belt every time. I'm going to make it for her and put all of those faces so she can walk around with it proudly. 20 lives were lost there. Simply because people don't care. You had to be a rocket science to know that. All you had to get there was a hammer or some torch to cut those grills that the fire service said you should take them off from the windows because it is not safe for the children. But they just don't care. Our indigenous people don't mean anything to them except for when they want your vote. Mm-hmm. And note, we got a Minister of Amerindian Affairs, who's indigenous herself. Mm-hmm. But when you get too caught up in the material gains, you forget your people. So 20 lives were lost there. Some of the children from Madia Secondary, They brought them and dumped them down at President's College. Now, those children needed counseling. It was not offered. Or whatever wish-wash thing was done, it was not proper. So those children are never the same again. Because you, Dr. Hines, you know what it feels like to hear your peers screaming in a burning building and you're standing outside and you can't do anything. And then after a while, you don't hear any scream anymore. And then the next thing you see, persons bringing them out wrapped in bags, you know, and then you pay their families $5 million as if that's what a life is worth. And then you had the audacity to say you didn't have to pay them. So this abusive serial government that we have, we gotta put this kind of behavior to a halt, or many more of our children will die. Many more teachers will suffer. So they dropped them off at President's College. And you know what? One of the male students there, he lit mattresses afire at President's College, And he wrote a note that he can burn the place down and he can got the children screaming there, like how his colleagues screamed in Madia, President's College. We got New Camberville Secondary. The wars is happening there. Dolphin Secondary. We got New Amsterdam Primary in Berbice. So many other schools all across this country is chaos. And the Ministry of Education was approved, a budget was approved of $135 billion for them. And we're having all these issues. From regions 1 to 10 and Georgetown, wars in all of these schools. Teachers are suffering. But you know what? Many of the teachers are afraid to speak because of fear of victimization.
Fear of victimization.
Officer running in your school, they can come and look for this, look for that to victimize you. So teachers they're prepared to send a text message and tell you, please don't call my name. Please don't. And so I have to take up the mantle. Right now, we've got some other issues happening, but I ain't gonna mention it here because I'm gonna go live with it and everybody will see.
We'll see. Yes.
I will go live with it because once you mention it here, they can head there quickly. But I'm going to go live with it. We got school where walls are cracked. Schools just built and the walls cracking already. You know why that's happening? Because if the contract is $5, $3 goes towards the contract, $1 go towards whoever the minister is as they top up, and $1 going to Freedom House. Every contract you get, you got to pay a percentage to Freedom House. That's the complaints and the cries of the contractors that we're having. And then when that is not enough, you're taking people who can't even hold a hammer properly and you're giving them contracts. And so that's the kind of abusive government that we have in this country. I know you know that one company got secured 40 contracts.
Yes.
One company. One company. One company. What happened to all them other companies? Something wrong with them, with the managers and everybody else. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to prepare bids. One company secured 40 contracts. And we know where those monies will go. They're securing the contracts as one. They're collecting the monies too. But find out if the drugs are being bought and distributed to the hospitals. That's why when you go to the hospitals, you can't get any kind of medication. You got to go outside and buy it. And when you go to some of the pharmacies and buy the drugs, is what was supposed to be at Georgetown Hospital or New Amsterdam or Fort Wellington or West Dem, it's selling in private pharmacies that belong to some of our friends and families. That's what we do that's what we do here. So this serial abuser has got to be stopped. And he can only be stopped if we, the people, rise up and stop this monster. Because if we don't do that, all of us are going to be consumed. And the fitter of the fittest will survive.
The fitter of the fittest. We have to rise up, so says the General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union, Sister Coretta McDonald, really laying it out tonight exactly what went on behind the scenes. Obama called it a teachable moment, and we have to recognize these teachable moments and turn them into moments of liberation. Into moments of liberation. Coretta, as usual, always thankful for coming on. I know that in the weeks following the sellout, you were busy, and I waited because I know our country, things happen every day. Abuse goes on every day, and people forget sometimes some of these things. And now, 2 months later, it's a good time to remind us
Yep.
of the great sellout, the great sellout of 2024. Coretta, thank you so much for your courage. I mean, in times when fear stalks the land, in times when people are afraid of losing their jobs, their livelihood, sometimes afraid that they'll be physically demolished, we need people like yourself to use your own body, to quote Walter Rodney, as a barricade,
Yep.
and you have been doing that. Thank you so much.
Dr. Hines, you're
Yes.
so welcome. And then just allow me to say a heartfelt thank you to One Communications, more especially to the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Damian Blackburn. He, for the last 3 years, he has been in the forefront of recognizing teachers. And he's grateful and happy to do that because he owes who he is today to teachers who brought him through. And so for this week, like what they've been doing over the years, this week they have collaborated with us to recognize the teachers across this country. And so yesterday we started in Region 3, where 70 teachers were recognized, compliments of One Communications. Today in Georgetown, we had another 70 teachers. And tomorrow we are going to be recognizing our teachers in Linden and Kokwani, all compliments of One Communications, led by Mr. Damian Blackburn. And we want to continue to express our thanks to Damian and his crew for coming to our rescue, even at such a time as this, when our teachers are feeling so demoralized. They have come to our rescue again. And I want to publicly thank them for what they are doing for our teachers. As a matter of fact, let me say it here now. It's all because of Damian Blackburn that the GTU has now been equipped with the MMG, so that our teachers can now pay their dues via MMG. So when the devils thought that they were going to lock us out and bring the union to its face, it's not going to happen, because David, the dues being withdrawn, it was a real hard task for us to be able to get our teachers to come on board. It was a hard task for us to have the Jews coming into us, because our teachers who live in Waramadown, our teachers who live in Oriala and all of those places, even right in Georgetown, to get the teachers to round them up to pay that $700 when it's in their hands, it was a hard task. Now teachers from their own homes, with the use of their cell phone, they can now pay their $700 to the union. And so I want to thank him for that, because teachers will be, it's at the teachers' convenience now, and the union will be benefiting because we will receive an additional percentage from that MMG transaction, which will go towards assisting even more, many more of our teachers. So we're so thankful for that aspect. And so the government can continue to not reinstate the deduction, but it's coming in via another means. So we're happy that that is happening. And our teachers all across this country, I know you're hurt, but remember, if there's no union, there can be no you. If there's no union, there can be no representation. So we need to continue to build our union, paying those dues, because that is what we use to offer you all the benefits we offer you. bursary awards for teachers and their children, death benefits, disaster benefits. Of course, we offer assistance for legal representation, and so many more we do for our teachers. So teachers, use the MMG to pay your dues, and let's continue to make GTU the organization that it once was many, many years ago, before these no belly men, no spine men came around.
Coretta McDonald here, and I usually don't push political parties, but the AFC has said it will offer 45%. The PNC said it will offer 35%. We in the WP are saying, as a first step, we will bring the teachers up to an average of what the CARICOM countries are paying their teachers. Whatever percentage that is, we will go along with that percentage. And when we bring them up to date, we then sit down with the union and talk about where we go from there. So you have three political parties who are committed to our teachers. And we have to be, because all of us know the benefit of education and what teachers did for us. My auntie had a 5th standard education. She couldn't help me with my homework, me and my sister, my brother, them. And so we had to depend on our teachers to teach me, help me with homework, and do everything. And so without teachers, we could not be. Of course, once the teachers complain, Auntie and asking question. You're asking question because she entrusts our future to our teachers. And once the teacher complain, trouble. So all of us know that where we are is as a result of the education, but our education could not be had without the input of our teachers. And all of us have that story. So thank God we have three political parties in the opposition who are committed in their different ways. As I said, the AFC said they will give 45%. The PNC said 35%. WPA says we will bring you to the average of what CARICOM teachers are getting. And if it takes 60% to get there, we will get there. And then once we are finished with that, we sit down with the teachers and work out how they can get a living wage, not piecemeal, but as a very much part of the process of working, that they will have what we call security, because that's what teachers want. They shouldn't every year have to wonder, I wonder if we're gonna get a 10%. Teachers, like all workers, need security.
Yep.
Security. Correct?
And David, it's one of the things we've been saying over the years. Two things will keep our teachers here: a roof over their heads and a mode of transportation, and a proper remuneration package. If you have that, then our teachers will not want to leave these shores to go anywhere else. And as you're saying that, let me say this. Mr. Blackburn said today he has traveled in almost 18 countries around the Caribbean that he worked in. He also worked in the UK and in the USA, and every territory he went to, he met Guyanese teachers there. Every territory he met Guyanese. So it is saying to us that something is wrong. But I must close by saying the PPP are not interested in education.
No. They're anti-education. They are fascist.
Look at what they're doing to the University of Guyana, and that will tell you exactly.
Yeah. They're anti-education. Coretta, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank the audience for staying with us. And they're saying I must bring on Coretta every week. They're in love with you on this program here.
I'm also going to recommend that you invite Vanessa Kissoon and Colin Bino and have them come on the program so they can tell you how they felt about what transpired on that day as well.
Wonderful. We'll talk about that. Yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it. Thank you, Coretta. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my dear. Have a good night.
Good luck in Parliament tomorrow.
Thank you.
Or good luck there tomorrow. And I hope tomorrow is not going to be business as usual.
Can't be business as usual. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you. And Coretta McDonald, as I said, whenever I'm going to war, there are people who I will walk with. And Coretta is one of those persons who I will always walk with when we're going to war. I'll see you all tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same story, but always with a sharp edge. Martin Carter said, the sharp knife of dawn glitters in my hand. I repeat, the sharp knife of dawn glitters in my hand. Let it carry me to the cybercrime court because I quote Martin Carter. The sharp knife of dawn glitters in my hand. See you all tomorrow.